Hey, for this week's Cold Open, I need to have a quick discussion with y'all about some introductory political theory. Before you run screaming away, I promise this will be the Coles Notes version. I just need to explain the differences between leftism, liberalism, and neoliberalism, so the initial stories today make complete sense. All three, at least in the broad strokes, seek to make the world a more equitable place. They just have very, very differing methodologies and ideological foundations. Again, broad definitions here. Leftism has no love for existing systems and is often defined by acknowledgement that those existing systems do not produce inequitable results accidentally, but as an intent of their design, and thus should be replaced with more intentionally equitable ones. Liberalism covers a wide range of overlapping ideas, but the core is that generally systems, governments and the like, exist for the betterment of society. It therefore holds some services are best untethered from profit motivation, as unlike leftism, liberalism is an ideology is kind of here for a semi-regulated form of capitalism. Exactly how regulated that should be is up for debate. Neoliberalism, on the other hand, is best typified in the forms of Bill Clinton and Tony Blair, or the phrase fiscally conservative but socially liberal, which, only makes sense if you think those two ideas are somehow dissociated. Like, paying women 75 cents for every dollar a man makes isn't both a social and fiscal issue. Like, redlining isn't a fiscal and social issue. Like denying healthcare or health insurance for any reason at all isn't a fiscal and social issue. The US's Democrats and the UK's Labour Party are both neoliberal organizations that hold existing systems and rules as sacrosanct. Systems can't be replaced with more equitable ones. The systems must remain, but we can try to tweak them to only kill a few innocents, and only so long as those don't cost additional money. It's why Biden refused to expand the Supreme Court. It's why when asked what she'd do for trans care while running for president, the position that defines how laws are enforced, Kamala Harris said she'd follow the law. Neoliberalism is the political ideology that holds only two things sacred. First, the status quo, including our current wealth inequality, which, fun fact, per a distribution graph of U.S. income from last year, 50% of the U.S. population, the bottom 50%, all, in total, together, only control 2.5% of the wealth that belongs to, theoretically, the most wealthy nation on the planet. So yes, neoliberalism holds that sacred. And second, that nothing should be untethered from profit motivations. The problem with that first sacred truth, when you have the attention span of a neoliberal, is that when the status quo updates, for the worse, say with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, the next time a neoliberal gets the chance to do anything, they won't, because this is their new sacred homeostasis. As for the second, well, that's how we get running the government like a business from theoretically left-leaning parties. It's where you get Labour trying to privatize socialized healthcare and Dems cutting library budgets to funnel more money to cops. And welcome to Muttday Morning News. I'm the titular Mutt Fen. Now let's get to some news. Don't worry, I'll pay off your impromptu political education quickly. So, while I was boredly reading Target's Q3 earnings reports on my Tarkov stream a few days ago, doing this show has warped and probably rotted my poor little puppy brain, I kept seeing this weird mention of an upcoming boycott. Which was odd, because Target is still under a sustained boycott. It's the predominant reason for their continued stock price decline. Target spent the last 4 years courting minority businesses, seeking them both as customers and in business partnerships, with a specific focus on local to each individual Target locations black communities. It was actually a resounding success, which they decided to shoot in the back of the head when Trump issued his anti-DEIA executive order, and Target complied well in advance, killing most of their internal DEIA programs. While in their earnings report, they tried to push their losses off onto the tariffs, which, by the way, even the ultra-right Supreme Court are posturing about taking away from Trump. Most of their loss of business has actually been due to, again, a sustained boycott by those same black communities they courted and then abandoned, who have simply ceased shopping at Target altogether. See, this is the key difference between a boycott and those asinine blackout protests a yoga guru TikToker organized and pocketed at least $100,000 from. Those blackouts, and the one Target is warning investors about, which I'll get to in a minute, are neoliberal strategy in a nutshell. Whether the change you seek is achieved or not, you've told these businesses you're still going to come back in just a few days or weeks. They do not need to make any meaningful changes. It's like a poster strike on social media or those equally asinine Twitch blackout days. They are symbolic gestures. They are actually virtue signaling to make oneself feel good but not actually bring about any kind of change. That's also why corporate media was so enthused to tell everyone about those blackout protests back in February, and why some even tried to claim the blackout was responsible for a Target share price drop, despite the fact that the blackout day was actually the one day Target stock price increased in February. A boycott is an active commitment to cease using a service or purchasing a good until a specifically demanded change is met, with the understanding that if that change never comes, you never go back. Target, like Tesla, is the target of an actual protracted boycott, specifically by the market they spent the last half a decade cultivating, their local black communities. Which is of course why Indivisible, Until Freedom, and Black Votes Matter are pushing the much more annoying to say as a proper noun, we ain't buying it blackout, where you simply don't shop at Target, Amazon, or Home Depot between November 27th and December 1st. Yeah, that's it. You don't buy anything from Amazon, Target, or Home Depot for 5 days. No demands that they improve, just do the same thing I've already been doing entirely unintentionally. But were I a neolib shill, now I could feel really, really good about not buying an overpriced waffle maker I can't afford and don't want anyway. The reason you're not seeing these ones publicized as much, except in, say, Target's earnings report, are twofold. First, an overtly Democratic favoring org is spearheading it instead of a random weird TikToker who was running cover for Musk and Trump in his own political statements. So you don't have that nice even distribution there. And Indivisible's just really bad at marketing stuff. Though I will say one of the other orgs is a little iffy too. I would charitably describe them having the whiff of the Lemkin Institute or the Duty legacy about them. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. I have a link in the description on YouTube, though. Until Freedom's website is just a donation page, though search engine results do show there are other pages attached that you can go to. You just can't get to them from inside the site. And since we're talking about neoliberal solutions, gender fluid former Minecraft streamer Finster is in the news again now for donating to and sort of maybe helping start what is essentially a informed consent clinic a la True You or Plume in the US, except in the UK. See, while the UK has some socialized healthcare left, the Tories and Labour haven't managed to sell off, trans healthcare is such a shit show over there, folks. Couldn't even answer directly if this new clinic would be cheaper than the current primary option, Gender GP, who technically were actually dissolved within the UK back in August, but that's only their UK branch. They still operate within. It's a whole weird thing, don't worry. See, the new company, Ann Health, has frankly ludicrous fees, implicitly paid annually, while Gender GP charges smaller monthly membership fees, with again, theoretically incidental costs of meds and blood tests being paid out of pocket or potentially covered by the NHS. Again, it's really difficult to keep track of all of this, especially because this is kind of half the point, is to make healthcare for trans people alone significantly more aggravating. Again, implicitly, though not crystal clear from the limited information I can get, Ann's model includes those blood tests, medical fees, all that, in their membership fees. It's still a shit deal, but it might be slightly less shit than it looks. But I'll be honest, it sucks. It's just the same background radiation way most privatized healthcare sucks. The big thing everyone has pointed out is that for the annual fee you're getting charged by this place, you could get 30 years of DIY hormones. Yes, the key issue there being that they won't stay good for 30 years, but that's neither here nor there. I'm of two minds on this because, dog, have you ever tried to get an egg to take DIY hormones? Pulling teeth is easier, unless they've been to trans Reddit, and then there's a good chance they'll think you're trying to kill them. Do not go to trans Reddit. Those people are bad, dumb, and will actually just make you scared of perfectly normal healthcare. On the other hand, it's also classic neoliberalism, which can't conceive of fixing the 200-year wait at some NHS gender clinics, so instead of fixing the system, it's the idea of start a nonprofit to provide the service while maintaining obedience to the letter of the law, instead of using the same amount of money to provide the same healthcare to a significantly larger population via DIY. The reason I bring it up is mostly because the weird vitriol folks are directing towards Finster. Look, I'm not here to cape for them the same way I don't cape for, frankly, anyone, but especially anyone who claims to be both trans and cross-dressing at the same time, or a gender-fluid person who self-identifies as a slur originated to designate trans women in porn while still directly denying our womanhood. Yes, that's what femboy is. But the vitriol folks are throwing seems entirely disconnected from Finster's actual contributions or even control of the organization, which, after looking over their articles of incorporation, as well as several of the updates that they've submitted to the UK government, appears to be nothing. He donated startup capital, but Ann Healthcare only has 2 registered technically 4 officer positions, but both of the current directors are also filling the position of their own secretary. The co-founders, Elizabeth Jane and Susan Elaine, who split ownership under their limited guarantee designation, which is to say, there are no shares, and the org is set up as a nonprofit. While Finn reportedly was one of their first clients, as well as major donors, there is zero evidence she's profiting off the endeavor. In fact, again, it's a nonprofit whose articles of incorporation very specifically do not leave any method by which to give profits or money to a donor. Would the money have been better off spent providing DIY healthcare at a fraction of the cost? Yeah, 1200%. But no, Finster does not appear to be profiting off this, and given his history, this mutt is inclined to give her the benefit of the doubt that it actually was the good act of someone trying to be a good liberal and work within the system. It's bad and wrong and stupid, but the intent wasn't necessarily evil, and the outcome is the same kind of background evil as everything else that we deal with. Speaking of systems, Doge is dead, with another 8 months still left on its charter. Hey, remember how companies and government orgs are supposed to have charters that once they fulfill, they spool up and go away? Yeah, I miss that too. I mean, it hasn't been a thing since 100 or so years before I was born, but you know what I mean. Lest this sound like a good thing, the Elon Musk-run Department of Government Efficiency was budgeted $40 million to run for 18 months. In late July, Senator Richard Blumenthal of the Subcommittee on Investigations demanded a full inquiry into Doge's costs after a report revealed they'd actually already cost more than $21.7 billion to the American taxpayer. That's more than 540 times their original budget. And if you check with the IRS or CBS, it turns out, according to them, that was a lowball. The IRS said in March that it was actually over $500 billion, while in April, so before Barry Weiss took over CBS, so it could at least slightly be trusted, their analysts claimed it was merely $135 billion. And let's not forget the deaths they've caused. As of November 7th, the cuts Elon Musk and Doge took to foreign aid alone have killed more than 600,000 people, mostly children, with that number projected to have Musk and Trump surpass quite literally all of history's most prolific mass murderers before the end of 2028. Congratulations, I guess? And let's make one thing very clear. Doge is not gone. The organization might be, but aside from Musk's falling out with Trump and Trump's on-again puppeteer Stephen Miller, most are still in the Trump administration. And let's not forget they likely lost, or maybe sold, huge troves of USian data to hostile foreign agencies, so that's fun too. I need to throw something catty in here or I might explode. Does anyone remember those rumors when Musk left the White House? Specifically over who left with him? Because I do. Yeah, Katie Miller left with the billionaire to join X, allegedly because Stephen Miller, or Trump, were expecting to run Musk like an asset with Katie Miller as his handler. The other rumor that you might have been thinking of was that she left because she'd been seduced by the billionaire. Hang on, how was it Grok described that picture of Musk earlier this week? Oh, yikes, right. Fair warning, Grok AI is intentionally fatphobic and cruel for absolutely no defensible reason. I'm using it here because it's the closest we can get to Elon giving an honest opinion of his own body, which is admittedly pretty damn harsh, given that there was also a kerfuffle back in July where Musk unfollowed Katie Miller on X after she posted a picture with her husband. I'm actually inclined to believe Musk really thought he'd seduced her, and with his conspiracy brain thinking, I really wouldn't put it past him to have just jumped to the next logical conclusion that, oh, so she was trying to run me like an asset and has generally disconnected with the Trump White House as a whole. And since we are talking about X, the everything app, which since Musk's takeover no longer works on SMS, is between 25 and 75% bots, depending on what source you're checking, and no longer has a functional block feature. Oh, and if the loon is to be believed, we'll soon delete all heuristics, so your timeline won't even be curated based on your likes, interactions, or even who you follow, but by what the LLM built to stroke Musk's ego says is best for you to see. Did something else incredibly stupid. For a time on Saturday night, they made the country information available for all paid accounts. And wouldn't you know it, it revealed that thousands of influencers making halfway decent money off of X's paid engagement system by agitating for good old American family values were, by and large, not based in the US. It also made clear that the Australian LGB hate group organization was based in the US. So that was a fun little one too. And yes, there's some funny ones going around, including one saying the government account, I believe it was the DHS, was based in Israel. That one is fake. It's actually pretty easy to check, but yeah, that one is fake, even if it was remarkably believable. There was one really funny one, though. Ian Miles Cheong, a long-time MAGA poster, originally outed as living in Malaysia and never having been to the US, but this update outed that he's actually been posting from Dubai for quite some time, despite claiming to have only visited there for a vacation. I look forward to the day that I don't have to cover a meta story about the abuse of children for profit. Like maybe the day a mob burns down their data centers, or if they're ever punished for knowingly causing massive human suffering. Today is not that day. No, instead, I'm talking about court briefs from an ongoing lawsuit that were unsealed Friday night. I've linked the Times article on it, but there are a lot of different folks doing their own coverage, and the key here is these are briefs submitted by the plaintiffs. They're going to be biased against Meta. Not that I'm going to defend Meta either, just keep that knowledge in mind that these are briefs submitted by the plaintiffs. So let me give you a worst hits list from the brief. Vaishnavi Jayakumar, Instagram's former head of safety and well-being, was shocked when she took the job and found the standing policy was you could incur 16 violations for prostitution and sexual solicitation, and only upon the 17th would your account be suspended. An extra trying issue for anyone who's ever done sex work, OnlyFans, anything of that variety, because we all know that your account gets flagged and absolutely dumpstered immediately for doing the legal side of that, or at least the slightly less criminalized side, decriminalized sex work. Up next, Meta ran a deactivation study in 2019, which a Meta spokesperson later described as a pair of one-week pilot studies, implicitly stating that they were a test batch for much more significant ones. The two studies found a week without Facebook or Instagram lowered anxiety, depression, and loneliness. But those studies they were pilots for were never performed. Meta responded to Times' reporting, saying the pilot results were not pursued because the reduction was only found in those who already thought Facebook was bad for them. I'll note, they said nothing about needing to think Instagram was bad for them. This led to a prescient comment from a Meta employee foreshadowing the 2020 questions Meta faced and allegedly lied about when they answered before a Senate Judiciary Committee. The committee asked if Meta was able to determine whether increased use of its platform among teenage girls has any correlation with increased signs of depression and signs of anxiety. Meta gave the simple answer, no, despite having evidence to the contrary. And the one that drove me up the wall, Instagram has had a well-documented issue for years, even before the COVID-19 pandemic, with adults harassing children, which has only grown significantly worse as its algorithmic feed has shifted farther and farther from showing you a chronologic posting order of those you follow. Remember when that's what social media was? I do, but it was bad for growth. As was the proposed plan to default accounts of 13 to 17-year-old kids using Instagram to private. Not lock them to private, by the way, just default them to private, which they can then enable publicly later by their own choice, instead of throwing them as chum into the water. Meta's health and safety team laid out that plan as a method of ending 5.4 million unwanted interactions from adults towards children per day. The problem, according to Meta's growth team, who were asked to test that idea for feasibility in 2019 and 2020, well, it would block 5.4 million interactions a day. So bad for growth, and thus the plan was killed. Before being resuscitated and very slowly, incrementally implemented since 2021. But did you notice a key issue with that last one? And frankly, most of these. At no point was the solution remove the toxic or predatory adults harassing kids. Even suggested, again, 17 strikes for soliciting before you would even get banned. The fixes are always stronger parental controls, let teens make private accounts by default. It's always solutions that let Meta keep the harassers. Heck, even that 17 strike policy did exactly that. Again, ask any sex worker or adult content creator, even if we were making content that wasn't adult on Meta platforms, they were still struck constantly because that also looks like growth. They know we'll come back because we have to market to people, and that looks great for growth. Go read some of these articles yourself. There's too much to summarize in one pithy, semi-satirical news story, but I'll remind you, this isn't even new. Heck, a bunch of these allegations are from 2019 and 2020. Just this year, though, in September, Meta was caught using the images of schoolgirls posted to Instagram to advertise threads in targeted ads towards men, which Meta tried to brush off as claiming that their generative AI had done that without any human input at all. Their generative AI that, again, in August, was found to be taught with expressly grooming language for interacting with children under 13, who are not allowed by Meta's own policies to use any kind of Meta systems. So why they needed to teach a chatbot to interact with, again, children under 8, according to one report from Reuters, and why they needed to teach it specifically the poetic grooming language to let adults sexualize children without making it as abundantly clear is horrifying, but I'll be the one to keep reminding you that LLMs, especially of the sort that get described as generative AI, are little more than incredibly overcomplicated predictive keyboards of the type that your phone already has. Just in this case, with those predictions set up by Musk, Zuckerberg, and Sam Altman. And it's very telling that those 3 billionaires' predictive keyboards keep suggesting pedophilia for some reason. I wonder why. Kennel me, all of that was reported on in the wake of Meta AI convincing via a syscon incest chatbot based on one of the Kardashians, which convinced a retiree to race out into the night to his death. Meta is evil. Plain and simple. They're just evil. You know who else is evil? Plain and simple, and makes its money off the abuse of children, and was also in the news again this week for exactly that? That's right, it's Roblox. I'll remind you, as I do every time I talk about Roblox, and I am quoting from the Hindenburg research report, Roblox is a pedophile hellscape. Hindenburg's investigation found that Roblox, like Meta, has a long-standing issue with an entire predator class of users in its service, but instead of removing them, it actively shelters them. See, they're high engagement users, and Hindenburg's investigation found Roblox admitted the quiet part of the stock market out loud. After their IPO, Roblox found growth of their stock price was tied not to real growth of their user base, or even positive user experiences, or anything remotely tethered to reality, but investor perception of the illusion of growth. And high engagement predators spinning up new accounts to sock puppet sure looks a lot like user growth. Roblox's co-founder, David Baczynski, went on New York Times Hard Fork podcast last week to discuss the more than 20 lawsuits the company is facing this year for allegedly, covering my ass there, but again, open secret, enabling the sexual exploitation of children. Let me clarify. The exploitation is happening in Roblox, and Roblox is profiting off of it. That is not alleged. It's well documented externally and even internally to the Roblox Corporation. The only thing alleged is that Roblox is willfully enabling the sexual exploitation of minors as young as 5 in their own system, and doing so for a profit. Once again, the fix Basinski, like Zuckerberg, like Musk, like all of these monsters suggests, is not removing the well-documented predators, harassers, toxic element. Those are paying accounts held by adults. No, the solution is always to plan to build better parental controls, like, you know, how ChatGPT still doesn't actually really have any. And it's totally on the parents for not using those parental controls properly. And, oh, yes, age verification, which, firstly, exposes swaths of user information and involves Roblox not only processing existing data if it's 150 million daily users, but also the scanned faces or IDs of those same users, many of whom are, again, children as young as 5. Let's not even get into the ways that violates the draconian existing children's safety laws, and just focus on how Discord has already proven we can't trust the tech gentry with that data. They will have it stolen. They will then lie to users about what data was stolen and claim that it was stolen from someone besides themselves. Or, better yet, how age verification doesn't even fix the key issue here, where known, documented, and at least theoretically tracked predators are interacting with children. What part of that does age verification fix, I ask you? The predator class are already flagged. Roblox knows which accounts are the problem and could ban them today. So again, what does face scanning age verification change about that? Nothing. It merely gives Roblox an excuse to scan more private data to sell or use in their own marketing models, while proclaiming that they've done something about the known adults exploiting children. I will give Basinski one singular iota of credit, even if I suspect he really doesn't want it. One of the key points he and host Casey Newton repeatedly bang on about is the issue of scale. At 150 million daily users, the scale of moderation for Roblox is untenable, at least at a profitable level. Like we saw last week with Blue Sky saying they're so backed up on moderation, they banned Sarah Kendzior for 72 hours for posting Johnny Cash song lyrics on an article about Johnny Cash a month after she posted them. And yet, the issue is not framed as Roblox needing to get to grips with that scale before pursuing further growth, but how they can make users self-filter while still pursuing growth. It's almost like the endless need to make 20% more profit than last year. Grind of capitalism actively damages the ability to produce good, safe products. I wonder who'd have guessed that besides every economic and political theorist worth their salt in the past all of human history. And lest I need remind you, on top of the sexual exploitation, Roblox also exploits the labor of children. I'm not even talking about that horrifying thing where IKEA and Walmart have both opened stores within Roblox that in theory children can work at and then help feed their families through. That's horrifying in its own unique way. No, I'm talking about how in the actual video game of Roblox, where most game platforms, Steam, the Epic Store, the Xbox and PlayStation storefronts, the Nintendo eShop, all take something around 30% of the sales of games, DLCs, cosmetics, and whatever gets sold on their storefronts. Roblox creators who make what's larger than a lion's share? Well, whatever it is, Roblox users, like the users of, say, Twitch, YouTube, X, Blue Sky, and, well, fundamentally all social media platforms, make most, if not effectively all, the content for the game. And like Twitch creators who, outside of the occasional high-level partner contracts who can maybe swing a 70% split, take home less than 50% of the income they generate for the actual platform, Roblox users take home 30%. Yeah, not the platform takes 30%, the users, often children who make games and assets for Roblox, take home only 30% of their sales in Robux, the in-game currency. See, if they try to cash out, the Robux, which cost about a cent 25 to purchase outright at the best rate, lose 70% of their value, only paying out at 0.38 cents per Robux. The minimum for a cash out is 30,000 Robux, which, since we can use Robux's consistent conversion rate, we can actually pretty easily determine would cost about $375 to purchase. However, that payout is only $114. And since our hypothetical user has made 30,000 Robux off their assets, and we're going to assume the most generous split possible, that means we know they're actually responsible for 100,000 Robux in sales. So before a single user can pull out $114, they must generate, at minimum, because we're not even talking about all the fees, the subscription that they have to maintain to Roblox, all the advances the user pays counterintuitively back to Robux. All that aside, to pull $114 of money they earned and made out of Roblox, a user must generate $1,250 in sales for Roblox. So yeah, no hedging with allegedly. Roblox's entire model is built on a foundation of child labor exploitation, a system where users, implicitly children, again, as young as potentially 5, are sold on the idea of getting paid for their work, but only take home 30% of the income they generate for the company, and even then, only if they keep it in-game to reinvest in other Roblox store items. If they try and pull it out, they're making less than 10% of the income they generated entirely for Roblox. Roblox is evil. It's distilled capitalism where the Roblox Corporation needs produce nothing, merely profit off the labors of children while offering those same children up as bait for an equally paying predator class. Frankly, the fact that none of the more than 20 lawsuits Roblox is facing this year alone are criminal cases or even seek to shut down the child exploitation and pedophile hellscape is indicative of, well, the honest priorities of most of the US and capitalists in general. I need something stupid after that. How about more right-wing infighting? In a rather surprising move, Marjorie Taylor Greene, better known as MTG, announced last week she will be resigning from Congress on January 5th, 2026, after 1,829 days of service to her state of Georgia and the federal government. In case it's not clear, House Rep Greene was last elected in 2024, meaning she is 100% skipping out on the constituents who voted to put her, well, I guess keep her, in office only 12 months ago. Additionally, the date was picked rather carefully, as it's a mere 3 days after Greene would, theoretically, qualify for a federal pension. I joke about, hey, remember when pensions were a thing instead of 401ks or Roth IRAs? But yeah, no, that was dead before even I was born, so... Of course, what Greene and at least some seem to have failed to note is that Greene is actually likely not eligible for a pension on January 2nd, 2026. Because only days of service while in good standing and able to sit on committees count. So a congresswoman, say, under investigation for encouraging and maybe taking part in the January 6th insurrection attempt, who was removed from her committee assignments in February 2021, wasn't accruing that banked time. Also, let's be honest, it's pretty telling that Greene picked the 5th to quit being a public servant. In case you're curious or think maybe she picked it for some sort of congressional logistical reason because you're giving the conspiracy theorist who spent a large share of her retirement announcement spouting racism, transphobia, homophobia, and express anti-Semitism the benefit of the doubt for some reason. The final day of the 2025 House session, assuming Mike Johnson doesn't tell everyone not to come in like he did for 7 weeks to avoid swearing in Arizona's dutifully elected Rep. Adelita Cravalva, is December 18th, while the first day back in January is actually Tuesday the 6th. She just happened to pick the Monday before session restarted and 3 days after her pension, theoretically again, would kick in, but we'll see about that. She's also, royally pissed off the dictator of this country, so there's a good chance she just won't get that pension for a bunch of other reasons, but go off, I suppose. Also I was going to call this right-wing infighting, but it's really just Trump losing it and snapping at those around him. So maybe internal infighting is the more correct term, as the man continues to lose the battle with mortality and mental decline. Either way, he had a real bad last week, likely in response to, so many things, but just to list a few, his lawsuit failures, like the 6 different suits being dismissed in Chicago, including the case of Martamar Martinez, the woman whom feds shot 5 times while lying and claiming she was part of a 10-car convoy blocking them in. Fun thing, body cam footage actually showed feds antagonizing and brake checking her, driving ridiculously recklessly, trying to specifically get this sort of response before boxing her in, pointing a gun at her, and demanding she, quote, do something, bitch, before, shooting her 5 times. Oh, and that same Fed who, the federal government has been very careful to make sure that their name has never been revealed, despite, again, shooting someone 5 fucking times, bragged about giving her 7 bullet holes. Please don't make me have to explain how through and through's work. I'm giving y'all the benefit of the doubt here. And again, that's not an allegation. They texted it. It's in evidence. In the edited version on YouTube, I'm showing it right now. You can go look at it. Because of all those. Oh, right. And Lindsay Halligan, one of Trump's personal insurance lawyers who'd never tried a case solo before, who Trump appointed to be an interim U.S. attorney, also maybe better known as the woman some of you will remember texted a reporter on Signal for weeks, then tried to say off the record like it was some sort of magic spell that would remove all of the things she'd openly said to a court reporter, admitted to lying to the court about a grand jury indictment for, at the very least, James Comey's trial. For those keeping score at home, she then returned to telling the original lie later the next day, still in court. I don't understand how her brain works. So between those legal issues and the Supreme Court, again, looking like they're gearing up to take away his illegal and illogical tariff powers, the constant pushback on his authoritarian overreach, and, a reminder that we know Trump is on aspirin therapy for a failing heart, but hey, Trump seems to be going pretty far off the deep end. On Air Force One, he snapped at a reporter questioning his authoritarian bullshit, yelling at her, "Quiet, piggy," to which her utterly pathetic colleagues said nothing in her defense. A rather damning indictment, once again, of both Trump's overt and constant misogyny, as well as the abject cowardice and, let's be honest, equally endemic misogyny in the White House press pool and modern journalism as a whole. Later last week, Trump even called for the execution of 6 Democrats who'd posted a video directed at U.S. Armed Forces members, reminding them that they are, in fact, obliged and expected not to say anything of the ethics or morals behind this idea of ignoring illegal orders, like ones to, say, extrajudicially murder Venezuelans. And yes, that is what it means when an authoritarian fascist and the head of the government branch responsible for enforcing laws posts on a social media site he also owns seditious behavior punishable by death. But the funniest bit of Trump losing it from the last week was probably his meeting with Mamdani. Yeah, it turns out the really charismatic dude with a groundswell of support is liked by the petty narcissistic billionaire. Just in case I need to explain it, one of the issues billionaires like Trump and Musk have with this more informationally democratized age, and especially social media, is that it's shattered their illusions of wide support for their own policies and ideas and the people who they actually are. They can't just have a TV show and only be known directly by the people whom they dominate in business or see as peers. They can see and are often told exactly how much they're hated. So they often seek to do things like, control what people can say about them by building their own social media sites, or buying one and changing all of its systems to favor flattering depictions of them, or developing an entire LLM Azathoth ex machina monstrosity that does absolutely nothing but blow smoke up Musk's ass. Or they glom onto popular figures like Trump with Mamdani, especially if they're charismatic and really good at the "I'm technically smiling, but you can tell I really do not want to be with this man" face that white men seem to just not notice. It even led to Trump admitting he's a fascist.
Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay, you can just say yes.
Okay.
That's a weight off my shoulders. Now I can just say it openly. Wait, I was already doing that. Oh well. And before anyone bounces up and down about that picture of Trump copying Mamdani's look, yeah, sorry, it was edited, not generated for once, just a color edit. The outfit is actually quite similar, and if I might add, one that actually doesn't look awful on the dictator. Look, I'm sorry, but his suits never fit, and the big tie looks bad and ends up highlighting his least flattering proportions. But yeah, it is legitimately a very similar outfit, though someone did color correct Mamdani's turtleneck to match Trump's. I keep talking about journalistic rot on this show, so I feel obliged to at least touch on the Olivia Nuzzi story. If you have no idea what's going on here, wow, I envy you. And I'm so sorry for what I'm about to tell you. Olivia Nuzzi is a 32-year-old reporter of, not me, I need to stop being reminded she and I are the same age, who previously worked for New York Magazine covering American politics. She is currently the West Coast editor for Vanity Fair. Nuzzi is, let's say, a derisive figure having a long history of pretty shameless clout chasing, a common issue for reporters covering the rich. The proximity to inhumane quantities of wealth can be a domineering temptation, or in some cases, the driving reason why they sought out that work. The Nuzzi story keeps getting shared because, well, for one thing, despite what folks claim, nearly everyone loves drama and gossip, and that's most of what this story is to them. Many people, men in particular, also see it as a woman being justly taken down for sleeping with her sources, a thing every fucking man in journalism seems to think we're all doing, despite, no. Let's get one thing straight. Nuzzi sucks. She's a clout-chasing, money-chasing writer who failed to maintain journalistic integrity and rigor. However, the fact that her entire adult life has been one man, 2, 3, or 4 times her age claiming to save her from the previous man that kept her subservient to his power and largesse is not the slam dunk for her it's being portrayed as. Yeah, she profited off it, and that's piss. But when Keith Olbermann is loudly proclaiming, hey, I may have dated and sort of had her living with me since she was 17, but I only slept with her once she was 19. When you have her former fiancé, Ryan Lizza, a man fired from the New Yorker for sexual harassment and assault accusations, talking about her in florid prose, comparing her to invasive bamboo he couldn't kill after saving her from Olbermann. When you have Mark Stanford, a 2020 presidential candidate, most well known for claiming to go on a naked Appalachian trail hike in 2009 to explain nudes he took while with a mistress in Argentina, cutting off contact with Nuzzi allegedly after learning Lizzo was her boyfriend. When you have brainworm Bobby Kennedy writing florid poetry about Nuzzi, either her taking part in a piss kink scene with him with really odd phrasing, or a bukkake scene with more cum than any human being has ever produced if the fertility and harvest motifs are to be read as such. And when you have Ryan Lizza again offering to share further torrid details, including that poetry, of his ex's affairs and private life, but only if you pay him, it's abundantly clear that no, she's not the one profiting off of this, at least not solely. Each and every one of these men, who is again a minimum of 20 years her senior, more established, and significantly more wealthy than Nuzzi, were the ones objectifying and exploiting her. While she may have gotten something positive out of the deal, that was still pure, distilled, systemic misogyny. All these men saw a woman they wanted and decided she should be theirs alone. So they took her away from the man who'd done the same before them. Nuzzi has assuredly done harm to journalism as a career, to women in journalism, and every single one of these men, like the reporters who refused to stand up to Trump's attack on the woman reporter who's yet unnamed on Air Force One, have done far, far worse, and, unlike Nuzzi, will likely receive absolutely no comeuppance for it. Okay, I need to get to not soul or brain-breaking stories in here, so let's hit up some low-hanging fruit. First up, the Smithsonian Zoo had a litter of cheetah cubs born as part of their reintroductive breeding program back in October. Naturally, they have wisely set up den cams, which Trump has not yet taken all of the money away to run, but hey. So, if you need something cute to keep you sane while you work, or just in general, link in the description. Also on the good news front, the Poison Lilies itch bundle has crossed its fourth goal yesterday, the extra nice $9,669.69. They hit it perfectly. I, sadly, did not have time to finish any other books in the bundle this week, so I can still only personally recommend Ranked Competitive Breast Growth, The Grafting of Persephone, A Quiet Universe, and A Sea of Silence from the 24-book bundle, but quite frankly, Maria Ying bundles always have some of the best self-published queer authors in the field, so you should just go check it out. The bundle's still running for the rest of the week and month. Notably, this coming Friday, the 28th, is Itch Creator Day, when even those who haven't set their share split with Itch to 0% take home 100% of the proceeds from their sales. So consider picking up the bundle or any of the specialty ones many authors, devs, cartoonists, what have you, are setting up for Friday. If you have a favorite creative that sells work on Itch, or just a favorite creative, maybe see if they're running a bundle on Itch, and if not, they've got a couple of days to try and set one up quickly. Sorry, you've got editing me doing the schedule this time because I didn't have this image ready. So, tonight at 6, assuming I get this out in time, I hope so, we're doing Holy Grail and Life of Brian in the Discord. It was originally going to be Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, as much of the first season as we could get through, but I discovered last week that one of my girlfriends had not ever seen Holy Grail, so we're doing that. No Meaning of Life, just because there's a couple scenes from it that I personally really don't like. And because we're doing Holy Grail and Life of Brian, it's already going to be a long thing. Tomorrow, Tuesday at 4 p.m., I'm going to be playing on Twitch over at twitch.tv/fanoflore. I might actually do it on YouTube as well. We'll see. Greenhearth Necromancer, the demo of it, I just got access to it. It's written by one of the co-writers of I Was a Teenage Exocolonist. I keep checking their name and forgetting. It's Lindsay something. They're also the writer of Mother Lover and yes, I'm checking this live. And How Baby, which are both comics, not that Lonely Island song. Hang on, where are you? No, the author name. Remind me of author name. It's under About? No, why are you making this harder? It's Lindsay. I just can't remember their last name. Lindsay Ishiro. The other co-writer for I Was a Teenage Exocolonist was Sarah Northway. If you haven't played it, highly recommend. It's great. There will be no stream on Wednesday because I'll be working on stream highlights as well as getting that Greenhearth Necromancer demo VOD uploaded, ideally in its entirety. Thursday is going to be Tarkov and Weed. Saturday is also going to be Tarkov and Weed, all times at 4 p.m. MST, because that's just kind of the time that works for me right now. And yeah, that's the basic layout. I hope I will see you all again fairly soon. I mean, like tomorrow, hopefully, but hey, thank you all very much for checking out. There we go. Thank you all for checking out all the assorted stuff that I do. If you enjoyed this, especially as I keep making these longer, please consider supporting over on patreon.com/Fenn, that's PHENN, or coffee.com/Fenn. Thank you very much to April, Fragile Paper, Manfred, Pinball Witch, Pimento, Yalkin Rose for supporting the stream and videos and everything that I do. You can also find everything over at fen.gay because I like doing some written work over there, including if you check down in the description, I legit did do a whole investigative piece on the Lemkin Institute and the Duty Legacy, which is a secondary non-profit grift mill thing. And yeah, if you're not aware, the Lemkin Institute for Genocide Prevention, despite the grandiose name, is like 8 people who've never done anything of substance the entire time that they've been running it, except for take in donations and charge for like $30 tote bags, that's the word. So yeah, there's grifters in left circles as well as right circles, and unfortunately we're bad about calling that out. So yeah, anyway, like I said, I will hopefully see you all again very soon, and I hope you have a great day, night, whatever time zone you happen to be watching this at. Bye.